Northwestern is taking on Washington in a battle of the purple in the Big Ten. Who's the better purple team in the Big Ten? There we go. There's my banner, my very makeshift banner.
Just uniform-wise, I got to go Washington.
That's fair.
Gold and purple. I'm also a Vikings fan, so that might play into it. But Winona State shirt on. Me and David Braun went to the same college here in Minnesota.
Really?
Yeah, he's a Winona State alum. He played. I just went to school there. Yeah, so again, I didn't see the updated spread, but when I looked at it, it was, I believe it opened at Washington as 12-point favorites.
And that's come down to 10.5.
That's a lot better.
Yeah, 7 p.m. kick on FS1, by the way. But yeah, 10.5 Washington.
Yep. Listen, I know. So Washington lost a heartbreaker. But I'm still. I thought they still looked like a good quality team, even though they did lose. I really didn't know how it would look losing the head coach and all the reshuffling that goes into that with certain players leaving the portal and whatnot. And not to mention they put, all those players in the NFL after last year's team. So I like what they got going. It was a tough loss, but Northwestern's just got big questions at quarterback and not a consistent ability to move the ball. Now Braun does do a good job. I feel like there's usually just some angle that he gets the offense to be able to do something that's given them some kind of life, and that defense is fundamentally sound. So I like Northwestern to cover, but I think Washington's going to win. I'll let you go before we say actual scores. But.
I am actually going a Washington cover, but I do think I wonder if it's a cover late.
Sure.
And I think for a lot of the things, like Northwestern's defense, is better than I think people give it credit for. I think the D-line, they have a lot of depth on the D-line.
Yeah.
Xander Mueller, I think, he is as old school linebacker in the Big Ten as they come, and he's really good. He's really good. The secondary concerns me for Northwestern. I think against Duke, they were really exploited by Malik Murphy and those wide receivers. And I think Will Rogers can exploit them with Denzel Boston, with Giles Jackson. They've got speed, and I think that can really give them heartburn. And I think with Jonah Coleman, that bell cow back, I still think Washington's a little disjointed because of all the turnover, but I agree with you. I think from a talent standpoint, they're actually a little bit better than I expected. I think Jed Fish cost them the game last week. But penalties cost them, lack of discipline cost them, but then that fourth down play, just a head scratcher. And I know I'm not the only one. I think Brock Heward is still he's still yelling on his podcast about that play.
Yeah.
Washington should have won that game. They were the more talented team. All credit to Dickert at Washington State. He had those boys ready to play. So that's not any Cougars fans that have wandered over here that are saying that we think Washington State stink, that Washington is the better team. Washington State was really coached up. We're saying Washington is the more talented team. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I think Washington rights the ship. I don't think Northwestern has quite the talent that Washington State does. You're going to Washington, which I just think is a really tough place to play.
It is, yeah.
I've got 28-13 as my score.
Okay. Yeah, I got 23-14 Washington, so a slight. Well, initially it was a cover for Northwestern if the line moved. Well, I have a 9-point win for Washington, so that would still be a Northwestern cover. I just think their defense is going to play well enough to keep it sloppy in a way that just keeps Northwestern in those kind of games, But I agree. Will Rogers is looking solid. He's been solid his whole career wherever he's been. So I think Washington, you're right, just exploits him a little bit too much in the air and gets the W.
Yeah. Fun game though. I think people might look at Northwestern and be like, eh. And I think Northwestern is going to be a thorn. They're going to be pesky for a lot of teams this year.
Yep.
And I would not be surprised if they get somebody at some point. Just like, how did Northwestern do? Similar to last year, like, you're just like, oh, you'll beat Northwestern, and then they, go
Get
on
8 wins. Yeah.
stupid run, and you're like, what in the world's going on?
Yeah.
Didn't you do what Washington did last week against Duke? Like,
I've been really impressed with David Brunt, not just because we went to the same school or anything. I just think he does a really good job at running. He seems to find a game plan that always gives them the best chance to win. There's not a lot of coaching decisions. Although they did have a questionable play as well there at the end in the Duke game. But I was going to say I don't see a lot of questionable coaching decisions come out of those games. I always feel like he's got them ready to go and what's going to be their best chance at winning. So, but should be a Washington W.